Well, welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and what a delight to have with us today Michael Daugherty. He is the senior writer for Cyber Defense Magazine. And boy, do we have a lot to talk to him about today. He's also a board member at the Snoopwall, the powerhouse cybersecurity firm, author of The Devil Inside the Beltway. You perhaps have known him from that. And today we want to talk to him about Cyber Pearl Harbor, really. And here it is, December 7th. 2015, of course, Pearl Harbor Day, 1941. Michael, nice to see you, my friend. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing, sir?
Good to see you. Well, boy, we can go 100 directions here with this. How big is the threat?
Well, the threat's huge on many different fronts. It's a type of threat we've never seen before. We have an administration and an infrastructure and government that is big on denial when it comes to defending America. And we have an enemy that can disappear into the wall very easily. So it's very serious. And as we've already seen, not only is it used to steal our commerce and information, our proprietary information, it's used to learn about our infrastructure, to learn about where our spies are, how our government operates, and to be used to obviously attack and harm and maim law-abiding Americans, as we just saw in San Bernardino.
All right, so where is the threat mainly coming from? I mean, we've seen various breaches from China and elsewhere, but where's it coming from?
Well, the government threats that are, I mean, the threats where they're attacking the government to get that type of information is primarily from, China, Russia, Iran, North Korea. That type of cyber warfare within the infrastructure of the U.S. government is primarily coming from there. But again, it's very difficult. One of the big excuses that the government's foreign powers can make, even, our friends that spy on us, because we even spy on our friends, I think everyone should understand, is that it's hard to find it because we've now got these super powerful tools that are the size of our palm, and so they can say, well, that's a rogue citizen of the country, but that's not the government itself. And when you have a dishonest government that is lying anyway, hello, China, they use that. Same thing with Russia. They use that excuse of, well, that's not us, that's just a rogue citizen, which, we don't believe that for a second.
Have there been any attacks that we just don't know about? I mean, other than the ones that have made the news, have there been any that have been quite threatening? Well, I mean, obviously, I'm not privy to inside government stuff. I'm sure there's a lot of things we don't know about as far as what we've lost because, look, China's been stealing our information for years. It's just the breadth and the speed is what's going on, for example. I mean, you want to remember they were stealing our blue jeans in the 70s, right? And what technology has done is sped up the depth and the severity of what they take and how deep they can get. I'm sure there's a lot of things we don't know because I'll tell you, I think one of the weakest parts, the weakest defended part of the U.S. economy is the United States government itself. And you have to be careful not to just lump the government into one big pot. Obviously, the U.S. government is a gargantuan machine. And when you have the lines are all blurred now. You have the Office of Professional Management having the worst breach in decades, losing fingerprints of 5.5 million people. Just that alone it compromises all areas of the government that have great security. So, you're only as strong as your weakest link. And that's the problem when you're trying to defend a lumbering bureaucracy, and Washington, D.C. is a lumbering bureaucracy. Amen to that. We've seen even in the private sector or perhaps even in the corporate sector some breaches. I was thinking of Target when they got hacked and some other companies that got hacked. It just further illustrates how vulnerable we are. Why aren't we taking this seriously? Why aren't we looking at our weak spot and say, hey, wait a minute, this could bring us to our knees overnight?
Well, I think that it happens so fast. If you look in hindsight, I talk about how, 100 years ago, 120 years ago, we're at the beginning of the industrial revolution, even a medical revolution, and now we're in this big technological revolution. In the last 20 years,
I think one thing we obviously did wrong, but we've never done it before to know, is we didn't really worry about security too much. We're very far behind. And then, you know, only with the Target breach and the Sony breach did it smack corporate America in the face and say, hey, you're going to get sued, you're going to get fired. That's only been the last 18 months. I mean, if you think about even the word breach, 3-4 years ago, people didn't know what a breach was really. So it's moved so quickly. And I think we are in a short-term problem that I think will be solved by a combination of the military and free enterprise cooperating, not the bureaucrats and the politicians.
All right, I was going to ask you, my next question is, where does the military come in on something like this?
Well, you look at, this is what people have to understand. It's a really tough situation about all the data that's mixed together. You know, again, in the 20th century, let's say a spy sent a letter in to the United States, and it was, you know, recovered by a military agency, and they're going to see the outside postage, they're going to see where it's been. Everything moves very slowly. Now all that data is mixed together. So we have to make a choice about what sacrifices and privacy we want to have and what trust we want to have in the government, because the less we let the government have, the less they can be proactive. And that data is all mixed together. I mean, they don't want to go through those mountains of data either, but once they have some sort of hints. So I think the military is building its defenses and offenses. But as far as the defense, the proactive defense is going to be getting as much information as possible and being really aggressive at it. You know, it's a very big, complicated job, because in a way, it's like you have a bag over your head and the lights are out and there's bullets flying at you from 360 degrees and you got to know where to catch them. It's a very, very challenging task.
Wow. Let me take a break here, Michael, when we come back. By the way, if you want to correspond with him or check out his work, thedevilinsidethebeltway.com. Thedevilinsidethebeltway.com is the website. We come back, I want to talk about, well, the financial institutions. What are they doing to secure themselves? And is the power grid at threat? We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paulina, and I work at theDove TV. Did you know that when you support theDove TV, you have a profound impact, not only in our community, but around the world? It's your continued support that takes the inspiration and hope in the programs we produce and makes them available to the thousands of people who are watching these videos online every week. Help bring encouragement and hope to our valley and beyond by making a secure online donation today at our website, thedove.us.
Welcome back, and we're talking about cybersecurity, and our special guest today is Michael Daugherty. He's the senior writer for Cyber Defense Magazine. He's also the author of a book that's really done extremely well, The Devil Inside the Beltway. There's a picture of it there on the screen. You may want to check that out. And his website is thedevilinsidethebeltway.com. Michael, you know, we've watched NSA expand its reach, kind of using the fear factor that we need to use security and cybersecurity for safety and all of that, and then they can't keep track of it. I don't think we realize how big of a mess this thing really is. What about financial institutions? What are they going to do to protect themselves?
Well, financial institutions, in a way, are a little ahead of the curve because they're heavily regulated, unlike a lot of other industries. And so they have a lot of secondary and primary defenses already put in place. Here's what's going on, though, with finance and everything else. These hacks are really capitalizing off of human error. So you can have the best safe in the world, but if you cough up the password, that safe is worthless. And so what a lot of these cyber attacks are really going after human error, trying to get someone to make a mistake and open up an email that they think is from someone else, open up an attachment, click on something that they shouldn't be. And, you know, these cyber criminals can fail 500 times and just one hit and they're fine. So we have this relentless, non-stop, technologically driven penetration attempt. And even in the financial industry, you're only as good as your weakest link. Now, there are so many softwares involved to secure things. It's highly unusual that you're going to see, a bank totally taken over or something like that. But it is the little petty theft that's what happens in cybercrime. The Target breach was really a mistake by a vendor. It's not the primary team, it's the secondary team you're defending on in a time when we've got to play catch-up ball. So it's always smart as a consumer to keep your data updated on a regular automatic basis and keep it offline when you're not using it, so that if someone tricks you and takes over your workstation or gets your financial information, that you have all that data backed up and can be restored. A lot of people go after petty theft in the financial world to sort of hold your information ransom. So obviously if your charge card gets taken, you have a lot of defenses of who's taking the brunt. But so finance is obviously a huge concern, but really this is more about cyber warfare and military secrets and what the government's doing in these big governments. These big governments want to know what's going on in the United States because we have a lot of terrorist threats that are coming after us. And the finance side, it's not as bad as the going after people one-on-one to hold their workstations ransom or things like that.
Is there any connection, Michael, between cybersecurity and the power grid security?
Oh, sure. And the Department of Energy is working their tail off to try to upgrade it, and they're not going to announce what type of weaknesses there are. But obviously, we have a not as up-to-date infrastructure in this country. I mean, this grid was built in the middle of the 20th century, and there's a lot of the part that's behind, but they're working their tail off, and there are secondary sources anyway, like when the power goes out. It would be very difficult to do it unless there's some massive attack in a broad way, and that's where the military complex has us defended. So, the entire United States going dark, certain areas and wanting to do a mass access. The more time that goes on, the safer we are with the defenses. So while it is, I just think it's highly unlikely, it doesn't mean it's not possible. That's not where they're coming at us. They're coming at us to really harm and kill people, to infiltrate our educational and government systems and find out where secrets are, and to permeate the back door that way. And that's why this San Bernardino situation is so disturbing and also full of information of how they operate. You'll notice it's more, using the financial sector to fund in a smaller way, patiently over time, so they're not really noticed, and then strike.
Was it true they were using bitcoins to transfer the money?
I think they were using some Bitcoin, which is, I don't know if it's, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me in the least, because they use multiple, these are sophisticated criminals, and sophisticated criminals know that they're going to fail often. They have a lot of contingency plans, and they're very patient. And that's why we really have to wake up and start understanding the enemy.
Got a non-value coin turning into cash. How does that work?
Right, because there's a sub-world going on. There's a sub-world going on where you have Anonymous now wanting to attack ISIS, which is a good thing. But you see how you have these vigilante sub-government, sub-culture, or sub-government-like organizations coming up. I mean, ISIS collects taxes. They've controlled wheat fields in Iraq. They're an incredible financial machine. They sell oil. So it's, these are rogue, almost floating organizations that act like governments, and it's quite formidable. For people, for President Obama to call them JV is just so many things that man has said that are going to haunt him in the future. But I mean, that's way up at the top.
Oh, by the way, we haven't contained. Did you hear that?
Right. I just. My only thing that I love about him saying that it was so close to Paris. Because he says anything and people just believe it because he says it, and the evidence is overwhelming now, and it needs to happen. I mean, we need to defend ourselves, and again, I want people to notice the defense isn't needed just like in the military. This isn't the game of war from, the 20th century. So we need to tighten up. The most vulnerable parts in the government are these bureaucracies where there's no accountability, and you've got these lifelong people that can't get fired no matter what they do. That's where we're dangerous, because they already came in and basically took the human resources department with the OPM breach. That's a terrible thing.
So the bottom line, how safe is our intelligence?
Not that safe. Right now, it's not that safe, because we have, we've got a president that wants to cut the budget of the FBI. We have a lot of patriots within the government that are very, very frustrated, very frustrated. A lot of people put their careers on the line and have lost in trying to ring the bell or play out the clarion call. So I think that it's not. Look, we are very sophisticated in our intelligence. We can go after the big dogs easily. Notice what sneaks through the cracks. And see, San Bernardino is a great example of sneaking through the cracks. Try to know everything that goes on with every person that's in here with a visa, and what they're doing, who's in their house. And it's just nearly impossible. And we have to get out of our own way on this. And that's the problem right now, is that I think our administration is in our way of empowering the military and really also working with private enterprise, and encouraging private enterprise. This is not a pro-business administration. And I believe ultimately the secret's going to come from Silicon Valley, because that is who always does the technological innovation. That's who's going to grow us out of this.
So I know this sounds a tad political, but why is this administration not taking this seriously? I mean, is it ideological? What is it?
I think zealotry, regardless of political persuasion, is very dangerous, because it's such a deeply ingrained worldview that you don't know what to do if you give it up. It's a desperate attachment. And I think he is quite an extremist. We've never elected a president this extreme before. I think Valerie Jarrett is the same way. They are more concerned with their own legacy and their own protection than the country, and that is more than obvious. We elected it, and we have to choose to learn from that and make different choices in the future, because this is serious. I don't know what people need that don't believe this is serious at this point. I mean, they flew planes into the Twin Towers. They have infiltrated sneakily and killed those people in Paris and in Australia and in San Bernardino. And let's not forget the Fort Hood families that still are having a hard time being considered victims of terrorism, so they can't get their benefits. Thank you, Eric Holder. This is an administration that not only will not admit it's wrong and adjust and learn from its mistakes, but it spins it to cover it up. And it's sad to say how overwhelming the evidence is. And I think all we can do is just pray that the next year doesn't have a lot of more infrastructure damage while this administration finally leaves.
Yeah. The one thing about San Bernardino, it's pretty obvious now that our cyber security system is broken. I mean, they both got through the cracks, especially the mail order bride that he got out of Saudi Arabia wasn't vetted properly, and we're going to do this with refugees and immigrants. I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
Well, that's a very good point, because what he's doing is he's using his personal agenda to affect other aspects, and he's turned any questioning into a race issue. And unfortunately, we don't make up who's been doing this, and you have to vet. I mean, really. I'm not a terrorist, but I have to go through every single screening every time I've been on an airplane, like crazy. Now, is that discriminatory to us? I mean, it's unfortunate that everyone's going to have to give up their own, have to give something up in their day-to-day life until we get this handled. And pretending they don't exist and pretending it's a race issue is really a disservice, as we're learning. And it's also those own cultures and governments' responsibility to police themselves, and that needs to tighten up as well. I mean, where is the outrage from the community?
Right.
The outrage is that they're getting accused.
You know, there seems to be a turn, though, Michael. I mean, look at the elections over the weekend in Paris. I mean, they're taking a hard swing to the right. I think Americans are waking up from all the propaganda and say, hey, wait a minute, this is nonsense. The public tide is turning. I don't know if that will reflect in our upcoming election, but and as it relates to cybersecurity in the United States, but you don't hear any of the candidates talking about this.
No, because they don't know how it's going to pan out, and it's too hot, and it's awfully early. But it is, you know, and they've all got hindsight 2020 because this happened so quickly. I mean, after 9/11, everyone unified. Whenever there's some sort of national attack, suddenly everyone, I call it conservative for a day. So because people have short-term memories, and generations come up and don't know. They don't remember. I mean, how many people are, the kids that were born in 9/11 are now 14? And so kids that maybe are under 10 years old or young adults, I don't know. You know, if we don't learn from history and teach history, we're going to repeat it. And, you know, this whole concept that they are willing to do anything and infiltrate and come through back doors and be patient and play dirty. I mean, look at the fact that beheading is now normal conversation. That's so repugnant. What they're doing to Christians, you know, in these. Where is the outrage for what they're doing to the Christian community in the Middle East? Where is that? I mean, racism is all or nothing, and it's unfortunately become a side excuse about just criminals that we have to vet. That's making everyone's life terrible, including good Muslims and good Islamists. But you know, Muslims have to have their own outrage and also police their own community.
Yeah, we just don't see that happening at all. Well, let me just say to our viewers, thank you, Michael, and listeners, go to Michael's website, thedevilinsidethebeltway.com. That is the title of his book. And check it out, thedevilinsidethebeltway.com. Michael, thank you for your hard work and your diligence. Let's stay at it. Let's stay connected and keep us informed, okay?
All right. Take care. Merry Christmas.
Good to see you. Yeah, same. Merry Christmas to you. All right, we'll be right back.